I could count on one finger the number of Uchiha who had a normal life. It's literally just Sarada. And even then, it was normal but not good because just like the rest of us, her father was never around. Which is crazy when you think about it because Sasuke had a certain Rinnegan ability that allowed him to quite literally teleport, kind of like Goku's instant transmission, and still, he never visited his own daughter. In fact, the first time they meet, he mistakes her for someone else and tries to kill her. So yeah, if your definition of a good childhood is stricter than mine, then yeah, no Uchiha in history had a normal life. Maybe someone managed to live happily off screen somewhere between the first and second Great Ninja Wars, but honestly, I doubt it. Let's start with history. Indra, the older son of the Sage of Six Paths, is the protagonist of the Uchiha clan. He was smart and strong, but also misunderstood. Basically, the guy got emotionally sidelined when his own father chose his younger brother Asura as successor instead of him. Indra took that personally, and Black Zetsu took full advantage. He started messing with Indra's life and even went as far as orchestrating the death of Indra's pet dog just to trigger his Sharingan. Think about that for a moment. The first traditional Sharingan ever awakened was because of the death of a pet puppy. Indra then also ended up killing his closest friends for the Mangekyo Sharingan, and eventually he fought Asura to claim that he believed was his birthright. All that is what became the Uchiha's infamous Curse of Hatred, and it kicked off a cycle of death and destruction between Indra's Uchiha and Asura's Senju clan that lasted for almost 1,000 years. Most of that history was the Warring States period where ninja clans were always at war with each other. Things were rough for everyone, but especially for the Uchiha and Senju clans. Every Uchiha basically grew up with a sword in hand and a target on their back. The rivalry with the Senju was so intense that young Madara and Hashirama were portrayed as idealists for thinking that children shouldn't have to fight. Most Uchiha kids never even had a childhood. They were born into battlefield roles and watched their family die as just another part of life. Now, I'm not saying the Uchiha were just victims. Let's not forget that one scene where 5 full-grown Uchiha gang up on Hashirama's little brother, Itama Senju. Yeah, stuff like that happened to literal kids all the time. And sure, things got better for the Senju after the Warring States period ended, especially once Hashirama and Madara found the first hidden ninja village. But even then, it never truly not sucked to be an Uchiha. Yes, even after peace was established, the Uchiha were never really trusted by the very village they helped create. That distrust ran so deep that even Madara Uchiha, the guy who literally named Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves, ended up leaving. You see, Hashirama was elected Hokage, and it became clear that Tobirama was next in line, despite Hashirama wanting Madara to succeed him. Madara realized this was going to lead to Senju dominance. He got concerned and tried to ask the Uchiha to help him take control of the village, but the Uchiha ignored him because they were tired of the constant war and battle, and so he left on his own. Unfortunately, Madara leaving and then attacking the village only strengthened the already growing distrust towards the Uchiha clan. Then, second Hokage Tobirama was so wary of the Uchiha that he basically drove them out. He gave them control of the newly formed Konoha military police force, and while that might not sound so bad, let me explain what that actually meant. The Uchiha were pushed into their own corner of the village, and even though the Uchiha police were tasked with maintaining peace and handling ninja-related crimes, their authority was very limited. Major crimes or serious investigations were routinely taken out of their hands and given to the Anbu Black Ops, who reported directly to the Hokage. Exactly. The Uchiha police were essentially a paper tiger. They were intentionally kept away from any real political power or leadership roles. But ironically, while they were watching over the village was also constantly watching them. Of course, there was always some of the good ones, like Shisui's ancestor Kagami Uchiha. However, even though Kagami was respected by the second Hokage and was right up there with Hiruzen and Danzo and could have eventually became Hokage himself, he died in his 20s. Things only got worse from there, and by the time the Third Great Ninja War ended, the Uchiha clan was done with the village's nonsense. Most of the clan wanted their leader, Fugaku Uchiha, to become the fourth Hokage. He was a strong, capable leader, and in Itachi Shinden, it is said that he was considered comparable to Minato and even the legendary Sannin. second, but he was not even considered for the position. The title went to yet another disciple of Senju, Minato Namikaze. Fugaku's supporters were understandably outraged, but Fugaku acted like an adult and resisted their calls to protest. Then came the Ninetales Demon Fox's attack. Fugaku, being the responsible clan leader and head of the military police force, immediately planned for his forces to help defend the village. He knew their Sharingan's ability to control the Ninetales would be indispensable in protecting Konoha. But before they could even lift a finger, they received instructions from Konoha's leadership to patrol the borders instead. Think about that for a moment. Would your people revolt if they were continuously humiliated like this? Exactly. Nothing says, "We trust you," like telling you to go stand in the corner during a genuine village crisis, even though you are the police. This was a clear sign that even in the middle of a crisis, the village was already suspected and Uchiha was responsible. After all, the Sharingan could stop the Ninetales, but it could have also been what caused the attack in the first place. And, ironically, that's what happened. It was Obito Uchiha who caused the attack. Anyways, Fugaku, once again, compiled without a word. In the aftermath of the attack, the Uchiha clan was now completely kicked out of the village. They were relocated to the outskirts of the village. The official story was that it was a necessary step in Konoha's reconstruction. But everyone knew the truth. The Konoha Council was convinced the Ninetales attack was the first sign of the Uchiha's dissatisfaction. They wanted to put the entire clan together to monitor them and prevent any further attacks. Of course, this was also the final straw. I mean, imagine being forced to move your entire community, your homes, your businesses, everything, and all under the guise of reconstruction, while knowing full well it's because your own village sees you as a threat. Being treated with that level of skepticism and outright suspicion, despite decades of service and loyalty, finally convinced the clan that Madara was right. Under Fugaku's leadership, the Uchiha began planning a coup d'etat to overthrow the third Hokage and his administration. They even placed some of their own within the Anbu to spy on Konoha from the inside. But even within the clan, there was dissent. Some of these very spies disagreed with the Uchiha's plans because they knew a coup now would cause yet another great shinobi war. Enter Shisui Uchiha, who tried to find a peaceful solution. He asked the third Hokage and Danzo Shimura if he could use the ultimate genjutsu, Koto Omatsukami, to force the Uchiha to stop their plans. Hiruzen agreed, but Danzo, being Danzo, was determined to do things his own way. He basically plucked out Shisui's right Mangekyo Sharingan. That ultimately led to Shisui to take his own life after entrusting his remaining eye to Itachi because he didn't want Danzo to take the other one too. Danzo then approached Itachi Uchiha, who was already a longtime double agent for Konoha, and gave him an impossible ultimatum. Either allow the Uchiha to carry out their coup, which would inevitably lead to the eradication of all Uchiha in a bloody civil war, or Itachi could wipe out the Uchiha himself before they had the chance, and in exchange, he could spare his younger brother Sasuke Uchiha. Itachi chose his brother over his people. And I know the fandom loves to pretend Itachi was a genius, but honestly, I think he was a bum who failed to consider that he could have just made Danzo's death look like an accident and then convinced both the third Hokage and the elders to make him the fifth Hokage to satisfy the Uchiha clan. I mean, it was even said that by the age of 7, he was already thinking like a Hokage. Anyway, so before the massacre, Itachi sought out the help of Tobi, who he believed to be Madara Uchiha. In a single night, Itachi and Tobi wiped out the entire Uchiha clan. At this point, only 3 Uchiha were still alive in the world. There's Tobi, who is actually a traumatized simp named Obito Uchiha. There's Itachi, who just killed his parents over a political disagreement. And there's Sasuke, who was forced to watch his family and clan die on loop for 72 hours, thanks to Itachi Tsukuyomi. Now, there's also this sick joke about the Uchiha's legendary Dojutsu Sharingan. It comes from trauma. Bro, you cannot make that up. Even the thing that makes them strong is directly proportional to how much their life sucks. I mean, how did Kishimoto even come up with all this? By the way, this is not the case with the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. Of course, they also have their own things that make it suck to be a Hyuga, but they don't have to endure tragedy for their eyes to turn on. And it doesn't even stop there. The evolution, the Mangekyo Sharingan, requires an even greater sacrifice. It's said that an Uchiha awakens the Mangekyo by experiencing the trauma of losing someone extremely dear to them. This requirement achievement was so messed up that it birthed rumors you had to kill your closest friend to get it. And guess what? Some Uchiha misunderstood the message and did just that. They literally started killing their friends for power-ups. And let me also add that the vast majority of Uchiha weren't even that strong. Unlike the Hyuga clan, where literally all members are born with the Byakugan, most Uchiha never awaken the Sharingan at all, even though awful things happen to basically all of them. So not only did the clan carry the burden of being feared for a power most of them didn't even get to use, but the ones who did unlock it only got there by surviving personal tragedies far beyond what was happening to the average Uchiha. If we take Sasuke for example, at the age of 7, his own brother, whom he loved and respected more than anyone, quite literally killed their parents and their entire clan. And then, just to top it off, made him watch the footage in 4K on repeat for 72 hours. That's what unlocked Sasuke's Sharingan at the age of 7. Then, what ultimately awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan was learning the truth about his brother's situation right after killing him at the age of 16. At this point, it's clear that even though the cycle started with Uchiha ancestor Indra, their very own ability, the Sharingan, became a self-fulfilling prophecy that further trapped them in that very cycle of hatred. It is also what became a self-fulfilling cycle. Fear leads to oppression, oppression leads to rebellion, which then justifies more fear. The pattern repeated in every generation almost like a cruel tradition. From the very founding of Konoha, the Uchiha were kept at arm's length. Tobirama's police force strategy was basically institutionalized mistrust. Young Uchiha grew up under the shadow, and then they also inherited the bitterness of their elders. This also plays into the cycle of rebellion. Indra rebelled against his family, Madara rebelled against the village, the Uchiha clan rebelled, or at least planned to, against Konoha's leaders. Sasuke rebelled against the entire world. The first 2 times, it was answered with exclusion. The 3rd time, it was answered with extermination. But the 4th time, Sasuke was able to vindicate himself, because for what it's worth, he was the only Uchiha left, and there was only one person who could actually fight him. That person was Naruto, and they did fight. Their symbolic fight at the Valley of the End represented the final clash in a cycle that started all the way back with Indra and Asura. Now, there was also plenty of manipulation. As if the internal issues weren't enough, the Uchiha were always used as pawns. Black Zetsu manipulated Madara, and by extension, the entire Uchiha Senju conflict for centuries. Madara manipulated Obito. The village elders manipulated Itachi. Obito manipulated Sasuke's hatred. The Uchiha were always getting used by someone, so much so that it's almost poetic. The very clan known for eyes that see through illusion was constantly living in someone else's illusion or plan. From Indra's time to Sasuke's, the Uchiha were stuck in a cycle that just sucked. And it sucked hard. Indra Otsutsuki, the original Uchiha, was the firstborn son of the Sage of Six Paths, but his dad picked his younger brother, Asura, to succeed him. That made him jealous. Then Black Zetsu entered the chat, started feeding him lies, and even made him awaken his Sharingan by causing the death of his pet dog. Again, the Uchiha curse started with a dead puppy. There's Obito Uchiha, a kid who wanted to be a Hokage and help old ladies cross the street. He was crushed by a rock, then rescued and manipulated by Madara, and then forced to witness his best friend Kakashi kill the girl he loved, Rin. That's how he went from nice guy to world-ending terrorist. Shisui genuinely tried to be the peaceful solution to the Uchiha coup, and even possessed the ultimate genjutsu, Koto Amatsukami, which could have allowed him to actually do it. But Danzo stole one of his eyes, which forced Shisui to entrust the other to Itachi and then take his own life to prevent further conflict and protect his remaining eye from falling into the wrong hands. He couldn't even get a clean exit. He had to give up his eye and then yeet himself off a cliff. The Uchiha curse truly is undefeated. Shisui's ancestor Kagami Uchiha, as in the only Uchiha ever respected by Tobirama, was an Uchiha who had inherited the will of fire. He could have actually become Hokage one day, but he died young, off screen, and basically forgotten. Fugaku Uchiha, the clan leader, was attempting to lead a coup, yes, but he never even got the chance to fully go through with his people's plan. He was killed by his own son Itachi, and in his final moments, he told him to protect Sasuke. Then there's Itachi. He was a prodigy, a child soldier, and then a double agent who was asked to destroy his own clan in secret. During the massacre, he also killed the woman who loved him. Though he gave her a peaceful farewell using Tsuyokomi, he did it all to protect his brother and preserve the peace. Then, he let Sasuke grow up hating him and ultimately died by Sasuke's hand. Even the legendary Madara Uchiha, who wanted peace so badly he tried to create a dream world, got played harder than anyone. He was manipulated by a black Zetsu and basically just served as a pawn in a grand scheme to revive Kaguya Otsutsuki. Next is Sasuke. At age 7, he watches his family die. He spends the next decade chasing revenge, only to find out everything he believed was a lie. He tries to destroy Konoha, then ends up helping save the world. He loses an arm in a fight against Naruto and spends the next decade or so wandering around trying to redeem himself. He is a tree right now, by the way. I'm not sure if it actually sucks being a tree, but Sasuke is an Uchiha, so I bet it does. Now, what about Sasuke's daughter, Sarada Uchiha? Well, by all accounts, she's the one Uchiha who had a relatively normal upbringing. She grew up in peaceful times, attended the academy, made friends, and wasn't weighed down by trauma in childhood. That already puts her at the very bottom of the Uchiha trauma scaling. But we could still say it sucks to be Sarada Uchiha. She had to go years without knowing what it was like to have a father around. At one point, she even doubted who her real mother was, all because of a picture of Karen with Sasuke, and just because she was wearing the same glasses as her. When she finally meets her dad for the first time in Boruto episode 20, he doesn't even recognize her. In fact, he straight up tries to kill her because he thinks she's one of Shin Uchiha's clones. Still, overall, I'd still like to say that it doesn't suck to be Sarada. She's the first Uchiha who is completely independent from the curse. Even Shisui and Itachi had to go through trauma to awaken and evolve their eyes, but Sarada's case, she awakened her Sharingan simply from the excitement of meeting her father. When it comes to the Mangekyo, she unlocked it out of genuine concern for Boruto. That's a massive improvement over every other Uchiha, because for once, an Uchiha doesn't need trauma to power up. Though Boruto is still ongoing and Sasuke is a tree now, so we'll see how long that lasts. Now, with all that in mind about how much it sucks to be an Uchiha, let me ask you a simple question. If you're part of the Naruto world, would you rather be an Uzumaki or an Uchiha?